Thank you. I will call the meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll accept the motion for consideration of the September 11th meeting. The minutes.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to accept the minutes as written.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Activity reports. Chief?
Oh, I guess I'll go. Back a little bit. It's my duty to inform the commission that we did accept the resignation of Mackenzie Silvera. Unfortunately, Mackenzie had some personal issues, as well as she was unable to pass her physical agility test that she would have to pass in order to attend the academy. She offered her thanks to the commission for giving her the opportunity. We wish her well. On that note of personnel, we do have 3 open positions at current. We do have 2 conditional offers on the table, and we are currently in the midst of background investigations on those 2 applicants. Both applicants I hope to have hired in time to attend the January Academy. That will get them after their 16-week academy and their 8-week FTO process ready to go for the warm weather. And like I believe I stated to the selectmen last night in the same context, just talking about coming back to the warm weather is a really good feeling right now, and we haven't had cold that long. There are 2 other candidates who are interested in the position. One of them is out of state, and he is an out-of-state certified officer. We're looking at that possibility for the spring of 2026. Also, I should inform you that we are navigating and working with the town manager as we're currently in a budgetary freeze of sort. As you recall, school care levied a certain amount of money that each of its municipalities and school districts have got to bear because of unrealized bills or requirements of them. That means that the town has to come up with, I think it was $377,000. Our budget is actually in very good shape. We've done, I think, a very good job in keeping the numbers down, and we're going to continue to work with the town manager the best we can to assist the town in getting through this freeze. I have advised him that we cannot freeze the hiring of these 2 employees, but we will make sure that he has plenty of notice that it's coming and when it's coming, so he can make proper notifications and movements to get that done. We are coming into fall as evidenced by everybody wearing long sleeves, and we're not even going to look at Tom Bell wearing shorts, and we're reviewing our training and making sure that our mandated training is up to speed to ensure that it's completed in time. Officers Greco and Weed, you may recall from our last meeting, had just graduated the academy. They are now solo. In fact, they're both on duty as we speak, and they're doing great. They have completed their FTO program, and they've done very well. I would also add that I'm hoping to meet up with Joel, the town's code enforcement officer that we discussed a little bit last time, to get some various ordinances reviewed and updated as necessary. With the addition of our patrol officers, I've seen an obvious improvement of something I couldn't wait to see, and that was improved morale. The department has a different vibe to it. Officers are happy, they're excited, they're moving around, they're looking forward to doing things together, going out on patrol. They're discussing cases openly with each other. They're helping each other out with some of the cases that are a little bit more vexing to them. And I've also received many letters and notices from both residents, businesses, and guests of our community, describing how they've had contact with officers and how pleased they were with those contacts. I think in the last month I've received more commendations on our officers than I have since I was sworn in. So we're in a good place. Finally, in my report, I needed to clear up something. I was aware that you had a public meeting yesterday with the Board of Selectmen, and there was a confusion that I hope to clear up for you. And the confusion was with regard to how the county, or how we pay the county for services or our county bill. The county has a budget, and from that budget, each of the towns in the county are required to pay the county their share. That share is, as you all know, from valuation, or what the towns are valued at. The communications budget of which you were discussing specifically is part of that budget, so it's the same way. There's no other formula that the county uses to determine what the town of Wolfeboro pays for the communications budget, because we're not paying for just the communications budget, we're paying our share of the county budget. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So their county attorney, the court, the jail, etc., deeds and maintenance, communications, sheriff, they all have their own budgets, kind of like we do, and the bottom line is the bottom line. From that bottom line, each of the towns have a certain percentage that they pay. The town of Wolfeboro is 14.5%. That is the amount we pay. So whatever bottom line of each of those moves, it doesn't matter till you get to the very bottom line of the county budget. That's what we pay. So the question that I believe you have in front of you would be whether the county would be willing to remove that piece of their budget to a separate place and then refigure how that's paid. And I think that's the question. You may inquire if you have any questions for me.
I think it should be mentioned that the discussion reference communications is dispatch, correct?
Yes.
And I think just so everyone knows, and that when we had the meeting with the selectmen last night, one of the issues is that we do pay for dispatch through the county. Do you know what that figure is roughly? How much we pay?
Currently, it's $162,000. Is that piece of the Paul 3.3 the town paid the county? Town for this year and last, it went up from last year quite a bit, and that includes communications, which is $162,646.50.
And in theory, that's a service we do not currently use, correct? Because we have our own.
We have our own communications full-time.
Paul, can we just maybe switch things tonight? Would you mind coming up and just discussing a little bit about what the selectman's position is on that? Anyone oppose that? Having him go now?
No, we're fine, yeah.
Paul O'Brien, I'm Select Board member. So good evening. As it relates to the dispatch function, this is something that I asked the chief about a year ago.
October.
Roughly speaking.
October 9th.
And the real question was, is there, because I saw it and I think the chief saw it as well, that we collect money coming in 3 buckets. We collect money from the taxpayer and write checks to the school department. We write a check to the county, and we write a check to pay other bills inside of the town. 3 buckets. I noticed that the county budget went up 27% on a year-over-year basis, and I noticed that we really don't use And it's not a question that we don't like, but we just don't use the dispatch function. We have a very capable set of folks down the street who do basically two things. They dispatch, fire and police assets, but they also answer the phone, the 1444 line, and they take care of answering questions like, when's the parade? When's it going to start? So there's that community aspect of it too. But when all is said and done, it's $162,000 that we're collecting money from the taxpayer and sending it up to the county. And the question that I asked, and the question that my colleagues are asking is, and maybe it's the wrong way to characterize it, but if we're paying for the money, is there a way we could get that number to zero or something close to zero? Now, there's only one other community in the county that we're aware of that uses their own dispatch, and that is Conway. So we in Conway have our own dispatch function, and so we're asking the question of, and we'll be asking the question of the commissioners, the Carroll County commissioners. Is there a mechanism here that says, hey, we want to change the allocation, get the formula down? Because it's not a question of fair and equity, but it is a fair and equity question that voters shouldn't be writing us a check for $160,000. We just turn around and send up there. What I said last night is true. It will not retire our budget. A reduction of $160,000 by the county, if it were to take place, will not retire the town's operating budget. It will retire the taxpayer's obligation to send $162,000. So in our discussion last night with the police commissioners, we said we want to send a note, up to the commissioners, and I want it to be professional and polite and not acrimonious, and we wanted to know if you folks wanted to join in on that note. And we haven't written it yet, so obviously you'll get some editorial privilege on it. But if you want to join in on the note that we send up, we'd love to have you do that. So that's where we are. Was that where you wanted me to go? Want me to sit down?
On a motion, or?
No, I think that is good, is appropriate. Now, I know last night too, while we have you here, we talked a little bit about cruises and changing the method that we approach the town. Is that something you mind touching on a little bit?
Well, I didn't hear all of the question.
About how we ask for the funding for the cruises?
So just, for the benefit of those watching, there were two meetings with the police. One was with the police commissioners from 4 to 5. That's our quarterly get-together meeting, and that's where we were talking about dispatch and other items. Then we had a budget review with the rest of my colleagues and with the chief and the captain. And so there's a request from the police department for 2 cruisers. We're going to give you, we gave you what we think is our advice on this. I mean, there's a couple of ways you could do this. You could put 2 cruisers out on a warrant article. And Jim, town manager, is exactly right. A no means a no. If they say no, it's no. And there's no way to go back and get a second bite on the apple. You could put 1 cruiser on the operating budget. You could put 1 cruiser out on the warrant article, and a few of my colleagues offered that as an alternative or as a suggestion. And where I come from, that's a hedging strategy. You hedge one against the other, and that might work, right? You might get a positive vote on the warrant or a negative vote on. You could do it that way, or you could put 2 cruisers inside of your operating budget. From a financial point of view, given the cost of the money you got to borrow, I've asked Sam, our finance minister. I mean, is there a material difference in the cost of money for a capital lease versus? It's not a lot of money, so I wouldn't worry about or have somebody come and say, it's not financially prudent to go down path A versus path B. So those are your options. And I think we left the meeting last night with 2 cruisers in the operating budget. Is that where we kind of finished up on that? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, no matter what you do, no matter what attempt you make, I'll just be candid with you. There's always this pushback that says, well, gee whiz, your cars only have 100,000 miles on it. Why do you need a new car? Or gee whiz. So you're going to get a lot of that, and I think it's deserved questioning from people who don't understand the details and the nuance of what it takes to run a pursuit vehicle, police car. So my advice, and I know that I speak with my colleagues, as we get through all of these budget meetings and finish these, my advice to all of you is you gotta over-educate people on why the need is there. Not only for the cruisers, but for the budget. And I'm giving the same advice to Steve, is up over 12%, proposed. The general fund, which is where you all sit inside, is up around 9%. Those are big numbers. We have to explain how we got there. Explaining how we got to those numbers, you have to, unfortunately, we have to take people through what it means when you go into a default budget, how that gets rolled back and rolled back. So some of these numbers are basically teeing off of 2 years ago. So it's a complicated issue, but my advice to everybody is really, you have to sell the voters, and I hate to use that word, but you have to educate the voters on what this budget is all about and why it's important. We have union contracts that we've agreed to. We have obligations on debt, and debt is declining. But I think Jim told us that, close to 85% of our operating budget is, in those areas of what you call fixed costs. So you only have a little bit of wiggle room to play with. And we're just going to have to over-educate. Run the risk of people saying, enough, I've heard enough, you've taught me enough. Do that, as opposed to maybe what we've done in the past. If you wouldn't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'll just finish my remarks. And
Sure.
Unless you have a question. Okay. So, without further ado, we are in the midst of budget season. It's like the leaves and the leaves falling. We kicked off the budget a week ago, October 7. On the town's website, there is a presentation that was given by the town manager, which lists in excruciating detail at a high level what's going on with the full budget, meaning the electric fund, the water, sewer. I mean, that's the full budget, including general fund. And so that's up on the website. Everything we do in terms of budget presentations going up on the website. The schedule of budget hearings is up on the website. Our first was on the 7th. We did the town clerk, assessing, tax collector, health officer, IT, and on. Last night, we had the pleasure of the police department, communications, animal control, fire and ambulance. For folks out there, fire and ambulance, particularly ambulance, please get to know it. It's a continuation of what we did last year. It's an important piece of the budget, and it's a big number. So if people have concerns, I mean, it's important. We voted for it once. There are other things in the ambulance construct that have to be dealt with. Next Tuesday, we'll have another budget session. That'll include parks and recs and all the things that go around that. Around the 20th, we'll have a session that will do the library and the electric department. We're going to have a joint meeting with the budget committee on the 22nd to review all of the agencies, the VNA and those types of agencies. And then we'll move towards the 27th and on towards wrapping things up. So my only encouragement, or my full encouragement, is please, and everybody you talk to, please take the time to help them understand the budget. If they have any questions about it, me, Jim, any member of the select board that you fancy you want to talk to, we want to help here as much as we possibly can, help the public understand what we're trying to get done. Okay? That's about all I got.
Anyone have any questions?
I'm
You
good.
good? You good with so you understand the concept of the letter?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, and I want to thank the chief, I think on behalf of the board, for keeping this question of the 160,000, just keeping it in front of us. Thanks for doing that. It's important. Linda Murray last night said, we tried this 10 or 12 years ago, and we got the polite go away in a polite way. So we're back at it, but I think we're back at it with a different approach. All right? So with that, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate
So
it.
Paul, obviously the letter would be a first step, right?
Yes.
To get an understanding, and we'll get a response from the commissioners at the county level one way or another. Are they
Right.
going to reduce it by, if so, by how much?
Yeah.
And then we'll have to revisit the issue based on what their answer is, I would guess.
See, yeah, that's exactly the way I think we ought to go. We shouldn't, we should do step one, letter, to your point. Get response, evaluate response. Step two. And whatever step two may be. Step two may be, we're done, or it may be some other consideration that we have to have. But I think one thing at a time, so we don't run ourselves into a fervor. Okay?
Agreed. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Voted on the letter last night. Do we want to vote?
So that letter has not been written yet, correct, Paul? It's not, no. So, do you have any further discussion on that? So I would accept a motion that, do we want to support and/or join the selectmen in that letter, asking for clarification from the county commissioners on that issue?
I would make that motion that we actually take part in the letter at that level, so that it comes from a larger group of people, both the police commission and the board of selectmen. Strength in numbers.
I would second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. So instances of arrest, you're good with all that? Good. Thanks. And do we have anything from the school resource officer at all tonight? Do you have anything you want?
Well, we've noticed something, just quickly. We were looking at trend, excuse me, and behaviors, and we've noticed that there seems to be a bell curve, if you will, of activity or criminal events or events that required services of the school resource officers. Whereas prior to COVID, again, COVID, we're still living in that shadow, there was X number of amounts of cases per month, and you could see them, and I could give you those forms if you'd like to review them. COVID occurs, they go down to almost nothing, and after COVID they spike, and the numbers go quite high for about 2.5 years, and then they start dropping again. We are now entering into numbers that are very consistent with pre-COVID time. So it's just an interesting look at what our SROs are seeing as far as behavior and its relation to the shutting down of the school and the COVID issue itself.
Any questions?
No, knew it was coming.
I actually have one question for you, Chief, and it goes back to personnel. About a year ago, we were looking at a pool of 6, 7 officers,
Yes.
and now we just have 3
Yes.
vacant positions. Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I was wondering if you could just clarify something that maybe, folks watching at home and here don't maybe have the knowledge of. In reference, the physical standards that officers, when you go through the hiring process with these folks, it's my understanding that it's different than it was years ago, in that it's more important now than ever because they do have to keep up with that throughout their career now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So
They
can you
have a
explain
3-year
how
standard.
when that changed and why that's important?
It changed a while back now. There is a standard, physical standard that all sworn police officers in the state, in order to retain their certification, have to keep. They test every 3 years. Depending on their gender and their age group, they have 35% of Cooper?
Yeah.
Cooper standards, and it's the same statewide. So when they're hired, they should pass these, because when they have their first day at the academy, they have to pass them in order to stay at the academy. 3 years from that point, they have to test again and make sure that they're still within those standards. If they're not and they fail, then they are given another opportunity, but your opportunities will lapse, and if you can't make those physical standards, then you become decertified.
So even if an officer has 10 years on, they may be decertified because of that 10 years?
That's the guy with 22.
Yeah, so it was there when I was there, so I do it every 3 years. So if you don't pass it there after the 3 years, you have another 2 years to get it done, and after the 2 years, you'll lose your certification. You're going for
So obviously, that's critical, because if we hire someone now that can't do it now, there's no way, chances are they're going to be do it.
They're going to have trouble
15
throughout
years
their
down the road.
career, yeah.
And that's a standard, that's a rule from standards and training?
Yes. From the council, right?
That's the council from the legislature.
Yeah.
It should also be noted that a person could walk in tomorrow, pass the test, be hired, go to the academy in 3 months, and fail the test. They can't go on. Even if they had already passed it with us, they have to pass it at the police academy. And they have to keep those standards throughout the 16 weeks.
Any questions on that, Kevin? And you mentioned one thing earlier also, Chief, about an out-of-state applicant potentially. And so if that person is certified out of state, they would not have to go through the whole academy, correct?
Depending on the state that they're certified in, we would submit basically a syllabus or their background of their education of that training academy and their experience, which for this applicant, it's quite lengthy. The academy would then have the say as to whether or not they accept that. I believe the state that this officer comes from is already been accepted, so that they would take something called a law package. And they'd have to go down to the academy during the session, just take the New Hampshire specific law package to get their New Hampshire certification.
And there is an option for them to test out.
And they can test out if they so choose. So you can.
That's motor vehicle law and criminal code?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can, and domestic violence and
Yeah.
a few of the things that are specific to New Hampshire. You can challenge the test. So you can study for it, take it, and not have to sit through the classes. That's up to each applicant as they go through.
Great, thanks. Any questions about that, Kevin? So we Chief Captain, Commissioners' items, the next meeting date will be Thursday, November 11th, here at the Great Hall at 6 p.m.
November 13th.
I'm sorry? November 13th, correct. Right? Yeah,
That's what he said.
13th, yeah, right. Yep.
Tom Bill?
Yep, Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, liaison between the Budget Committee and the Safety Group you included, was here last night, and the reason I have shorts on is actually Chairman Coop had his shorts last night. Couldn't risk not having them on tonight.
As long as you're not waiting for us to do it, you're good.
But I think it went very well last night. I think the selectmen appreciated the presentations that you guys had and the discipline that you put to the budget. So we'll see where it all goes, but I think you're all in good shape. As I mentioned last time, the cruiser thing is critical. And we somehow have to get the voters to appreciate that. So it'd be nice to determine a strategy where all of us work together to let individuals that vote on the budget know why we really do need that. So our next meeting is next week, but it is going to be less of different departments Paul said. But we'll work with you to see what we can do to get what you need done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
I would agree with that 100%. There was a lot of discussion about that last night, and very eloquently, I might add, the chief spoke about the need for the cruisers, and that they are actually a tool. I mean, they have blue lights on them, they have radios, they're used in positions on the roadway to protect officers at accident scenes. They are a tool, not any different than what they have on their person or what they have in the trunk. And I've never been of the position in my 30-odd years in the business that cruisers should be part of a warrant article. They should be in the general budget, in my opinion. And it's something, you know, the chief and us as a commission need to justify. And, you know, the system where the public looks at that and makes that determination as part of the budget, we still have to go in front of the selectmen with that, if it's in that, instead of a warrant article. You know, we still have to go in front of the budget committee, whether it's one cruiser or two cruisers, right, as part of the general budget, and they can slash that if they wish. We'll have some say in that, as a selectman can. Chief, do you have any position on that? You feel that should?
On where it should be?
Yeah.
I think we came to a conclusion last night that was agreeable. I think it was just the wise thing to do. So I would concur with what the selectmen determined last night.
Either you gentlemen want to have any discussion on that, or do you have a position on that, a comment, I should say?
I think it should be in the operating budget as well. And how it became to be a warrant article is interesting. But given, the fact that obviously the town's budget is in the situation that it's in, and the community realizes, what the fiscal situation with the town is, I think it's prudent on the police department's part to have it in your operating budget, so that there's less guess and more, I guess, affirmative action as far as getting the tools that you need to do your job. And you do need tools to do your job, and we all recognize that, so.
Yeah, I guess let me go back to, you asked me my thoughts, and the whole warrant article thing is very difficult navigation. Because in my own experience as somebody who's worked in municipalities for a number of years, as well as voted in them, warrant articles always meant to me something special, something new, something extra, something that we need that we don't usually have. Something that we need to purchase that the town perhaps doesn't have or hasn't had in a long time. And as Kevin just said, cruiser is a tool of the trade. It's what you need to do your job. And to put that in a warrant kind of sends a mixed message that, wouldn't it be great if we had one of these? Well, we need these, and we have those. We need to replace what we have. It's a tool of the trade. So that goes back to, it's in a budget. For many years, cruisers have been in operating budgets that I've worked with. The problem now is catching back up to where we're at, and we have a long way to go. The town made decisions in past years that at the time were probably great ideas. But now, the chickens come home, and we have to figure out how we're going to deal with very old cars. That coupled with the fact that when you purchase something that's going to last X number of years, you schedule a date that you need to replace it. That's part of the being responsible with your finances. So if you are buying a ballistic vest and you have a 5 to 7 year lifespan on that ballistic vest before it no longer does its job, you schedule 5 to 7 years from now, I will have enough money in the budget to purchase that replacement. We did that with these cruisers. We had dates. We've gone by those dates, and we've not purchased a cruiser. Therein lies the problem. So now we're unfortunately in a position of having to catch up and feeling a little panicked about it. It's not the place you want to ever be. But that's,
I think what contributed to the current state too is, and we talked last night about the 2016 era cruisers, there were 4 Explorers that were part of a lease purchase. And that's always been a question that's come up with regard to new cruisers. Is it more prudent to lease a vehicle than to purchase outright? And it comes down to dollars. But obviously, at the end of the day, we never should have got away from having the cruisers in capital outlay, and that way you could continue the one in, one out every year, so you have that continuous rotation, so you minimize your repair costs and upkeep costs, trying to keep the vehicles on the road. And because of the volume of use, the volume of engine hours from idling and so forth, those can be, kind of kept under control too, and that's, so we've got cruisers going out at a faster rate because so many were purchased at once. And the only way to get around that is you go back and you say, well, we got to replace these 4 with 4 new ones. And that's a big number, and people aren't going to like that. And I haven't seen in a number of years where leasing has been an option anyway, where it's been beneficial to the town. It's better to purchase outright. So
there's 2 schools of thought with regard to cruiser rotation, purchasing cars, these types of things, and how long do cars last? And you find me 5 so-called professionals in this business, and I will give you 5 separate schools of thought for when they should replace their cars. And there are a multitude of studies that talk about it. Every town is different. Every town has different roads. Every town has different requirements of their police department or the types of calls they go on, certainly. And we have different equipment in our car than another town does. That all put aside, and all things being equal, there's 2 schools of thought. The schools of thought are, it's best to be involved in something called the Indianapolis system, and if you can't do that, then you should replace your car one in, one out. The Indianapolis system, and I'm sure you probably remember that, is take-home cars for everybody. State Police does the Indianapolis system. Well, if you have that kind of money and you're able to get that started, once it's started, it works well. It's getting to that point. I don't see the town of Wolfeboro doing that. That's 14 cars. And that doesn't mean you can add a few cars now and everything will be fine, because you still have those 135,000, 144,000 mile cars that are going to mess up your system. The other system is that one in, one out. And a lot of agencies do that because the car that's going out hasn't been driven till the wheels fall off. They are getting some sort of revenue back from removing that car to a dealer or a auction house, if you're going White's auction or that type of thing, but you're getting something back for that car, and you're not continually sinking more money into it, and you're not welding parts onto the frame of a pursuit vehicle. So I'll leave you with that, and that's where I came into thinking or trying to process how we're going to do this with this equipment.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, so right now we have, in theory, that we want to have 10 cars in our fleet, is that correct?
The fleet size is 10.
And that's actually down from previous.
We have 9. And that's down from the 11 that I think was probably the high water mark.
So that was a high mark? You have scaled that back to 10.
Yes, it's 10.
And so in theory, again, if we replace 1 car a year, we would have a car that's 10 years old.
Yes.
So it's not like you're asking the public for money to turn them over every 3 years or every 4 years. You're talking 10 years.
I think if you're going to get to that point, it'll be quite a ways down the road before the town can afford to do something like that. Would it be more cost effective? That would be a long conversation with Tom Bell and his crew, but I think eventually it would be. But for now, it wouldn't be. It would cost you a lot of money to do that. I think if you replace 2 and get rid of 2, at least for the next 4 cars, then you're all on your way to a better place already. But you got to remember that we've removed one car because it didn't pass inspection. The other 3 cars that are in danger, if you will, of high mileage related issues are those other 3 2016s. They all have at least 120,000 miles on them. And once those 4 total cars get replaced, the other cars that are in line are coming up too. We have a car with 95,000 miles on it. That's, you know, in a perfect world, that would be the next car that's in line. However, that's one of our newer cars. So those other cars are going to be acquiring mileage. We're trying to keep that down because we know we need to get life out of them. But at the same time, I really don't want to put too much dependence on a car with 140,000 miles on it to get to the other end of Wolfeboro in the middle of the night. So we have to kind of move cars around the best we can and try to even out our mileage the best we can and make it work.
Is there any professional organization or entity out there, whether Chiefs of Police Association at the state or national level, international, Towns Insurance Company, stands and training, does anyone guide agencies like us on what the mileage limit should be?
They all have had some statements over the years. I know the IACP came out with a report. I believe there's a couple other national police organizations that have come out with their own studies. A lot of these organizations have also come out with studies about hours of cars. I think you mentioned that last night, where getting an hour off of a cruiser is easy. It used to be you had to plug in the sensor and put it on the computer. Now you just push a couple buttons on the dashboard and it shows you how many miles you have, both driving and idle. And that's the number that they were more concerned about because of the engine wear. We all drive our cars differently than police cars. And that's part of, I think, that education piece that Paul was discussing. We don't leave our cars running and we don't have all this stuff attached to it. So we need the heavy duty batteries and alternators and that type of thing. But I think you'll find that these organizations, and the one that I'm familiar with that I'm currently searching for, I believe came out of the IACP, and that was probably 20 years ago now, where they were talking about 90 to 110 being the absolute most that you want to put on a cruiser. Since that time, many state police agencies have moved towards the 3-year car, where you keep the car for 3 years and then you rotate it out. I don't know what our own state is doing with their cars and their rotation, but they were always known to be, the car kept getting transferred to somebody else and it just died somewhere eventually. But I think they've changed that as well due to these studies.
Do you have any knowledge on that, Kevin?
Answers your question.
No, I was never in the quartermaster, for state police. But depending upon your job, it really depended upon when your cruiser rotated out. So in patrol, obviously it rotates faster than an administrator. Cruisers in rural areas are rotated less frequently than cruisers on the highway, because of the mileage that's put on the cruisers. But essentially, from about 100,000 and on, you were looking to have your cruiser replaced. It also depended upon the cruiser and how dependable it was, and there were certain makes and models that wore quicker than other makes and models. So in one particular cruiser, I lost my transmission at 105,000 miles and it had to be replaced. So there are certain things that happen. It's not that's a mark. I would say like on a wall that you kind of figure that to be the case.
Your ballpark.
Yeah. I think the point is you know, that this police department is now in a position where they're running high mileage cruisers. And for the safety, you know, of the police officers and the community, and, you know, getting the most out of the police department from a patrol perspective, you know, we need equipment that is dependable, that the police department can use. Because, you know, it wasn't too long ago that we had community members in this meeting asking, hey, why don't we have patrols out on College Road? And, you know, and you can't do that if, in fact, you don't have the equipment, you know, to do those patrols, you know. So kudos, you know, for you guys to, you know, coming up with innovative ways to kind of reduce the mileage that you're putting on the cruisers. You have a parking space downtown, you park that cruiser, you get out and you're doing the walking, you know, beat, you know, for a period of time. And you know, you're obviously managing the, you know, the mileage of those cruisers and you know, within the organization, which is what you have to do in this particular situation. But the bottom line is they need cruisers. You know, they need cruisers to do their job, so.
So just so everyone understands, so the patrol cars are the top priority, right?
Yes.
They're used in the most critical situations, day in, day out. In your experience at the state police, Kevin, they take precedent, and then maybe someone that's an administrator, like higher up, that's not in patrol function, maybe would have more mileage on their car than a patrol car would, for obvious reasons, I would guess.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work that way.
I understand.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the state, right? So when you were up for a car, you got a car, you know? So I could have been, I was a troop commander, and I had a brand-new cruiser. You know, it wasn't necessarily, you know, handed down, the hand-me-downs. Now, as a new probationary trooper, yeah, you didn't get a new cruiser because you still were in your probationary period and you still had to prove that you deserved, you know, a new cruiser. And obviously, you know, the experience level of new troopers isn't that of, you know, more senior troopers, right? So they're still building that experience, and therefore they get, you know, cars with, you know, maybe your first car is 60, 70,000 miles. If you're lucky and you're a new trooper, you may get one at 40, 50,000 miles. Yeah, so, but the state is the state. It's a different animal, you know, than Wolfeboro PD. So.
Any other further discussion on that? Well, I guess I'd be interested in seeing if we're interested in entertaining a motion that we support. It sounds like the position of the selectmen of the administration to now switch to have the police cruisers put in the general budget request, with the general budget instead of a warrant article.
Budget?
Yeah, it's in the
It's in the
budget, it's a capital outlay, but it's in our budget.
But it's
Yeah.
in the budget.
Yeah, it's in the budget.
I think we're supporting, no?
Well, I mean, I think we all support that, right?
Yeah.
So is that the position of the board?
Yeah.
Yes.
Public, anyone from the public? Ready? Sir? Chief, do you have anything for non-public today?
I have one item.
I'll make a motion to enter into non-public session under RSA 91A:5, exemption 4, personnel.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep, roll call vote?
Aye.
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 We'll clear the room for non-public, thank you.